Hello everyone, I am Douglas E. Welch and welcome back to another episode of In the Garden for A Gardener's Notebook. For more information on A Gardener's Notebook and everything else that I do, you can visit douglasewelch.com. There you'll find links to A Gardener's Notebook as well as Technology IQ, Careers in New Media, Career Opportunities, and much more. Well, it's been a while since we've been in the garden, and frankly it's because there hasn't been a lot going on. With a college professor for a wife and a soon-to-be high school junior for a son, our school years get really, really busy, and it means we don't get a lot of time to spend in the garden, and that's exactly what's happened. As the school year started to wind down, things just got crazier and crazier until we really didn't have much going on. That said, the last couple weeks, my wife has finished up her spring session as well as my son, and we've actually gotten out and done a few things in the garden to kind of retrofit it and try to catch up with all the stuff we missed in the past. Now, one of the first things that had to be done, because it was somewhat of an emergency, is I had to do some repair in this bed here. Now you'll notice, you can probably tell that the soil's been turned over here. We actually had a gas leak. The gas line that comes into our house goes right through this edge of this bed here. And so the gas company had to come out and repair it, and that's okay. They were pretty good about not digging up too many of the sweet potatoes because it was right on the fringe of the area here. Unfortunately, they did what I have done several times in the past. They cut right through one of my soaker hoses that's in this bed. And here you can see the repair that I've done. I used a standard hose repair coupler that you can get at your local home store here. I won't show you the whole process in this video, but I will put a link to the entire video I did on repairing soaker hoses in this fashion. This is probably a $22 soaker hose. I always feel that it's worth repairing at least once, perhaps even twice, rather than replacing it, simply because it saves you some money. This fitting here was about $2.25 to purchase. It took me maybe 15-20 minutes to install it. In that case, I also repaired a hole that I had put in another soaker hose at the other side of the yard here myself while pruning some roses, and figured I might as well take the time to do that as well. Our onions are starting to finish up here. You can see the tops are starting to go dry and dry back, and it'll be pretty soon to harvest these up and hang them up and let them dry in the garage somewhere. We did okay this year. We found out, I don't know if it was the squirrels or other animals or just the nature of the plants themselves, but they tended to push themselves out of the ground quite a bit this year. They, again, didn't get quite as big as I had hoped. I'm thinking we'll try these in a different bed next time to see if they do any better there and turn this bed over to something more decorative perhaps. Now, just like we did last year, when the heat arrives, we're letting the parsley and the other herbs go to seed and drop their seeds right back into the pot where they are. This tends to create a nice self-perpetuating cycle. You can see the chives are also starting to flower and go to seed in the front here, and this basically means that once the temperatures start to come down a little bit from the heat of summer, these pots will sort of rejuvenate themselves. I'm really enjoying this aspect of it. I never really thought that you could get away with such things, but it's been working pretty well so far. And you can see here I'm doing the exact same thing with our lettuce pot as I did last year. Now, I mentioned the heat, but we are having an unseasonably cool June. Not that I am complaining in the least. I'm sure we'll pay for it later in the summer, but it's actually been quite pleasant. Today I'm out here, it's nice and breezy, about 72, 73 degrees, which is surprising to say the least. But still a bit hot for lettuce. What will happen is this lettuce will start to come up and probably get hit with the next heat swing and start to bolt again. So we just let it go. Every once in a while I shake the flower tops and the seeds back into the pot down below and just simply let them start all over again. Now, we had used this whiskey barrel as a hose container actually for the longest time in this corner, but we find we don't use the hose in this area that much anymore, mainly because this bed just doesn't seem very good for growing anything, whether it's the soil or whether it's not enough water or not enough sun. I'm not sure, but what we decided to do instead is to start using this whiskey barrel for container plants. Our first thing that we've thrown in is some sunflowers. Actually, I had some sunflower seed lying around that I of course meant to plant out weeks ago. Most people's sunflowers here are already up and seeded and ready to drop their seeds, but I figure we have a long enough summer here in California, we ought to be able to get away with planting some sunflowers now, and sure enough, they're nice, coming up nice and strong. These are not huge mammoth sunflowers, they're more medium-sized and colorful. sunflowers. I'll show you pictures as they start to flower and seed a little bit later, but it's good to see that things are coming up nice and easily. You see we have our reused hardware cloth here around this pot, at least until these plants get a certain size. Just providing even this modest barrier around the pot keeps the digging animals out. I think they just find easier places to dig, and so they leave these alone, and it seems to be working pretty well so far. In the future, once the sunflowers are done, we'll probably plant up some sort of food crop or herb crop in this pot and let it continue on its merry way. I've been a little disappointed. As you can probably see here, I've had to go back to using my mechanical timers that I was using before for the soaker hoses. It seems that the electronic timers I'm using, all three of them have failed. They worked really well. They actually ensured that the garden was getting plenty enough water, but it seems like they didn't have a very good duty cycle. After 3 to 6 months, depending on which one it was, the gearing, which I assume are these little plastic gears in there that ran the ball valve, simply stopped engaging. Whether it broke a tooth or slipped off its little axis or what, I don't know, but it would simply click and whir when it came time to turn the water on and off and not work at all. So I've had to go back to using these standard mechanical timers, which thankfully work really, really well. So that's what's going on in our garden this week. It's good to get back out in here and have some company in the garden for once without everyone being so busy. For more information, you can again visit the website douglasewelch.com. There you'll find links to a garden's notebook as well as everything else that I do. Love to hear your questions and comments, what's going on in your garden. That always encourages me to do more in my garden when I see what you're doing with yours. Until next time, keep digging.